Welcome everybody to episode 4 of Real Time. My name's Ryan. With me as always is the Wayne to my Garth.
Hi guys, it's Robbie. Yeah.
So there's a lot of... Where should we start? There's a lot of stuff come out over the past couple of weeks. Should we start at the top with the Disney-Fox merger?
I think so. It's been one of those things that's been racking up a huge amount of the discussion because obviously they're going to finally officially merge.
Yeah, absolutely. There'll be what? Disfox, Foxney.
Oh, I think I'll just keep it as a separate entity, but yeah, that would be. I'm amazed nobody's coined a phrase for this. Like, yeah, Foxney sounds
21st
funny.
century Disney?
21st century? Yeah.
That might work. Something like that. Anyway, I digress. Let's move on. So with the Disney-Fox merger, they're reportedly going to recast the X-Men, which is an interesting one because if they do that, will they potentially bring Hugh Jackman back as Wolverine, or will they recast him as well? Because there's a lot of speculation about other actors being recast anyway.
They're going to recast. I think at this point it gives them a clean slate to essentially just create the characters, bring them into, say, the MCU kind of era and have new... It's like Spider-Man, like they could have used Andrew Garfield. No, we went with a new Spider-Man. So I think that's probably where they're going to go with this. It makes the most sense. But the interesting thing, and I think this is probably Deadpool, is the one that they're not going to change that.
No, it'll be a constant.
But the thing is, it's so meta anyway they can get away with it. Like they can make jokes about it, and then it would be funnier then if they could somehow get previous established characters from the old X-Men franchise to appear in it with maybe new casted ones as well. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's almost like a 2-universe crossover because it's already so messy anyway. That would be funny.
It wouldn't be too far-fetched, yeah. No. And there's a lot of people saying, too, that now with the unfortunate death of Stan Lee, that they'd be okay with Deadpool just showing up in MCU films as the new cameo, so to speak.
I could see that. The first one would have to be a crossover where he has, like... Yeah, he looks like Stan Lee's head, and then after that it's just Deadpool, because I think that would be the only way to make that bridge work. I don't know. It seems... Yeah, I could see them doing that, but then maybe it might... The thing about Stan Lee's cameos is that they're funny, but they're not distracting.
Absolutely.
Genuinely not distracting. Whereas I think putting Deadpool in that way would be more distracting. Yeah, it would be one of those things where you would just start thinking, what's he going to turn up this time, and then make a scene. It's like more of a scene thing, whereas Stan's things are kind of not really... They're not often kind of... They're not really... They're there, they just exist as a character in the universe. The exception may be Guardians 2, where they show that he's actually, like, all these different characters, and he's
one of the Watchers, as they try and claim him as.
Yeah, and so that's the only real exception to that. And maybe, and we'll get to this later, maybe a little bit the Captain Marvel one. Yeah. But that's for an entirely different reason.
I definitely think you're right on that aspect, whereas the Stan Lee cameos were definitely like... Oh yeah, there's the Stan Lee cameo, and you don't think too much of it. It's not too distracting, doesn't take away from the story. Whereas Deadpool, it'll probably be an over-the-top sort of scene stealer, and it'll detract from the rest of the film.
Exactly. That in itself makes sense for the status quo of the character. That's the whole point. I mean, even if you go back and look at that announced trailer that was for Deadpool 2 and the version with Stan Lee, he even
the phone
points,
box,
the phone box. Even he's like, "Zip it, Stan," or something like that. Like it's almost drawing attention to the jokey idea of the cameo in of itself. So I can only imagine if you started putting Deadpool in as the cameo, it would be, probably overbearing. I'd say.
Absolutely.
No offense to Ryan Reynolds, because I do like the shtick. I just don't think I need to see more of that in every other film.
No. Other news with the Disney merger as well, they're wanting to do a Silver Surfer origin film. Now, the last time we saw a Silver Surfer was in Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer, I can't remember who his motion capture was, but he was voiced by Lawrence Fishburne. I remember that much.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to someone about this recently. Just kind of sidetrack, but when everyone was going on about Lawrence Fishburne being in different like Marvel and DC films, it's like, he was in a movie in the past. And was like, no, he wasn't. I was like, yes, he was. People forget this. I've never been a big Silver Surfer fan. I don't know what it is. I get the idea of the character. We need to get Fantastic Four right before you can even, like, this is my concern. It's like, it's all well and good. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the fact that they go and just make a Silver Surfer movie. I mean, and especially now it would be part of the MCU as it is, I suspect. So they're really, well, I don't want to say they're doubling down, but they're really getting into that cosmic universe kind of thing of late. So yeah, I mean, it's not undoable, but I feel like this is another case of like, I'm sure it will happen when it makes sense to happen. So maybe it's just rumors, I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely think a Silver Surfer film origin potentially by itself could work out pretty well. I mean, they definitely want to expand the cosmic universe with like Guardians and like Thor Ragnarok of
even
expanding that,
and even now into Endgame and Captain Marvel.
Yeah, absolutely. They're definitely expanding to more of the universe, or sorry, the galaxy rather. And it would be interesting because if you cast your mind back with Rise of the Silver Surfer, they had Galactus in it as well, and that's for a long time people are like, oh, are we going to see Galactus in the MCU films? But then they're like, oh yeah, but Fox own it. But
now it
can actually happen.
Oh, and that's the general theory, is that after Endgame, that'll be the next big bad. And that they'll try and think of some clever way to tie these two things together as to why it might be related to what Thanos' actual intent was, or something like that. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I think at this stage, people need to be vigilant on the idea that turnaround for films is quite high. The length of time it takes to get stuff into production is longer than a lot of people think. It's all well and good when Marvel's like spitting out 3 films this year, you know, like it's a big deal, but they take a while to get together. So if the Fox merger isn't, it's not that the wheels aren't turning, but the Fox merger isn't official until March. After that point, they can start properly developing these things. Then we're talking a couple of years away at least. So the next slate of, you know, the Marvel universe is probably going to start before then, because we'll definitely have Spider-Man out. We'll definitely finally have our knowledge and understanding of what's coming next. You know, we know another Doctor Strange is coming. We're pretty certain another Captain Marvel's coming. Another Guardians of the Galaxy. That's the stuff we do know about, until it has to tie into wherever those films start going.
Absolutely. And with all this new universe as well, with the Phase 4 starting, there's people leaving from the old phases as well. So we should maybe talk about those. And one of the bigger names, which is kind of a surprise to me, but it makes sense as well, is Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah, so she's been not hiding her tweets really, and it was pretty obvious some of the stuff. And I don't know if I want to get into much of some of the other things for spoiler reasons, but she's definitely implied that this is the end of her theatrical starring career as far as this franchise goes. But she was open to the idea of turning up in cameos. So I could imagine something like in Spider-Man, where she turns up in the last 5 minutes of the movie. Like, she could do that. Or these TV series things that they're planning for Disney. Like, they just throw her money. She turns up on set for a day or two, and that's it. I can imagine that. Which is interesting, because I think that's what I can imagine of a lot of these actors that are potentially going to be ending their time.
They could still show up in some capacity.
Yeah.
Or not, depending on what happens in Endgame. I mean,
yeah, well,
we don't know what happens.
This is the thing. I think Chris Evans is another one. They're all like, oh, well, that means Cap's going to die. Or something. Well, it doesn't actually necessarily mean he has to die. It literally means something could happen that limits his ability and someone else takes over the mantle. And it's very interesting. At this stage, people always say, well, you know, Robert Downey Jr. is probably a high potential. I'm like, no, he's not. I think of all the people from the original, he's the one that's more likely to stick around. He's happy with doing the films. He's been doing plenty of other films, and it doesn't stop him from turning up and doing something like he did for Spider-Man. He's definitely someone. He might not come back, but I suspect he's going to continue. It's making him money. He's happy doing it. Gwyneth Paltrow's obviously had enough, but that means if his character continues to exist, then they will want to keep her somewhere in the universe. Yeah, exactly. So maybe that's at the time, and maybe that's where people are reading into it. It's like, if she's leaving, then maybe it's both of them. So this is pretty impressive for any film. People got to remember this, you know, by the time Endgame comes out, 22 films. Mm-hmm. That's no small task, and just over 11 years. A lot of actors, ensemble casts, balancing all this. It's pretty difficult, and it's worked reasonably well so far, so I don't think we have to worry too much about the future of the next phase. If they stay at the current rate of things, then we're fine. Yeah. No worries.
I do remember reading something the other day that Brie Larson has actually done a Robert Downey Jr.-esque contract of she signed on for 7 odd movies, so she's kind of taken over that mantle, and that's kind of an interesting feat in itself, because it opens the door of will people eventually show up in these small bit cameos in
well, I mean,
later films?
Well, you look at Samuel Jackson signed up 9 pictures on the basis of a cameo at the end of Iron Man.
Yeah.
It's like, and some of those 9 picture things have been very small, and some of them have been very big. So it's like, I think that's a better indication of how things will look. Robert Downey Jr.'s ones obviously got renegotiated as they continued, and he continued to get more and more money and back end and all that sort of stuff, and made a hell of a lot of money off both the Avengers films. So the previous Avengers films, I'm assuming it will continue the same with these 2 more recent ones. Yeah, it will be interesting. I think we'll get a very good picture once Endgame's out, as you said. Like, I think that's a pretty easy understanding because we'll know where everything stands.
Yeah, where people lie and what's going to happen for their careers next.
Yeah. I think it's pretty obvious. We know that the Guardians of the Galaxy crew are pretty much going to come back. Whether or not that's the same lineup or not, we don't know, or it changes. It's pretty obvious to me. Obviously, people are like, Captain Marvel, Ant-Man coming back. But then there's more outliers, like, is War Machine going to still be around? Is Rhodey going to still be involved? Is obviously, how long will Scarlett Johansson continue to be
Black Widow?
Black Widow, yeah. And there are ones that maybe they're not at the end yet, but they're not far off as well because they've been
They've been in there for a while, yeah.
Well, yeah, Scarlett Johansson's been in since 2010?
Iron Man 2, yeah.
Yeah, 2010 Iron Man 2. So she's coming up on 10 years of playing that character as well. So whether or not she wants to keep doing that post Avengers as well, good question.
And in that same aspect, so has Hawkeye as well. He's been in it since Thor.
True, exactly. So is Jeremy Renner finally finally going to stop playing that role? I don't know. We'll see. It'll be very interesting.
Yeah. In semi-related MCU news, it's not necessarily an actor leaving the MCU or he's going to quit, but a rumoured role come out is Chris Hemsworth is potentially playing Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, I
Hulk
saw
Hogan.
this.
Is it a biopic? I think it was.
Or something like this. I can see it, but do we really need a Hulk Hogan biopic?
No, I think he's definitely got the size. Like, you see him twice, 3, 4, 5 times in Thor with his shirt off.
Yeah,
he's probably got the 80s sort of Hulk size.
Hulk size and physique for it.
Can he do the sort of mannerisms and everything that goes with it?
It depends on the type of movie. Is it? Hemsworth to me plays. I mean, most of the other stuff outside of what he's done for the Marvel series has been almost, I want to say at this point, comedy. Quite aloof characters. Something obviously he played to a sensibility in Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking of his small role in Vacation.
And then 2016 Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters, yeah, of course. Just very aloof characters that play almost against the type. So this is almost like doubling down on his sensibilities as potentially to be dramatic. But it depends on what the thematics of the film is. Is it supposed to be serious? Is it supposed to be like a serious biopic? Or is it supposed to be kind of a comedy-esque biopic? It'd be very interesting to see. I don't know if I'm that enthused personally, but your mileage may vary.
Yeah, well, as a big wrestling fan myself, I mean, I'm not even too sure how I feel about it without, I think that's still a rumor at this stage, so it's hard to tell of what the story's going to be like and if they're actually going to go with him or
I'm interested to know if
making it as a joke.
Well, I was going to say, I was interested to know if this is going to be just a series of wrestling films and biopics coming off Fighting with My Family.
I'm not sure.
It's like, have you got this rumored and then we just had that coming out and it's like, are we going to start with... You can't do an Andre the Giant biopic. That'd be interesting. Who's going to be CG? And we have to be CG. There's no one like Andre the Giant, for example.
Not really, no. You can't... I mean, you get the odd person over in Europe that would be tall, but no one like Andre.
Andre is very unique. So
there's a reason why he was the 8th wonder of the world.
Yeah, and so it would have to be an actor that's kind of augmented to do that role. For example, like, are we going to end up seeing a run of these biopics? Because I feel like that's, if you start that, then it becomes a trend. There's a potential for that.
Yeah.
I'm not personally convinced, but hey, if he wants to do it, go ahead, go crazy.
We'll see what happens. We'll move on. Now, there's been a recent advert for KFC come out with Peter Weller come out as RoboCop, which has had good and bad response online. Now, I've seen some various other KFC ads by famous celebrities and even wrestlers over the past few years dressed as Colonel Sanders, but I definitely think the Peter Weller RoboCop one has definitely hit a nerve with some people.
It's just weird. It's just you could almost understand, but because you got to think about this, it's before it was an actor or a musician or whatever it was, a wrestler, whatever it was, playing like a semi-fictional role, because Colonel Sanders was a person, but the caricature that KFC implies is not really as accurate as the actual person. Obviously, it's an image. It's a marketing tool, essentially, right? But now you've got an actor playing a fictional character playing another semi-fictional character. And not only that, the tonal shift between, like, you can understand a comedian or an actor. You can meet Rob Riggle or Rob Lowe, for example, or Reba McEntire. Reba McEntire was Colonel Sanders for a while. Like, I can kind of get those things because it's kind of playing the joke against the idea of these famous people playing this. But now you've got a character that was in a violent film. Like, maybe you look at the whole series, but we're looking at Weller's version of it. So it's only the first two.
Yeah.
Violent film series being Colonel Sanders. It's just weird. And then on top of it, obviously, and I know where you're going with this, the Neil Blomkamp thing.
Yeah, with the Neil Blomkamp, he wants to do his own version of RoboCop as well.
Well, which is a sequel which ignores I think it's just the first movie or the first and second movie, I can't remember, but it's RoboCop Returns.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be in that style of the Verhoeven-esque kind of Neumeier satire, violence, all that sort of stuff. And you can see that his complaint is that you're just taking the piss out of the character, and just we're at a point after the flop of the reboot that he wants people to take it seriously, and all of a sudden you've got him turning up as Colonel Sanders and making stupid jokes. Like, I can see why he's frustrated.
Yeah.
When it's in development, like, it's a hard thing.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think for the past 10 years or so, Neil Blomkamp's also been trying to get an Alien movie to come out as well. And I mean, it begs the question, is KFC going to make the next Colonel Sanders a xenomorph or something, or Bishop or something?
Bishop, at this point, Lance Hendrickson is an android version of Colonel Sanders. Yeah, no, I could see that happening at this rate. This is the thing. Are we going to a bunch of 80s icons? Sylvester Stallone as Rainbow as Colonel Sanders? Like,
or
Arnold Schwarzenegger
as...
Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator as Colonel Sanders. This is this ridiculousness of it. Like, this is what I don't think they've quite thought about, and why the reaction online has been very mixed, as opposed to having famous actor, musician, wrestler play Colonel Sanders. It's a big difference. But, it is what it is. It's American advertising. What do you expect?
Yeah. We'll talk about the Wesley Snipes news come out recently of an R-rated Blade film.
Yeah, speaking of Marvel
want to come out.
I'm at the point. Just recast.
Yeah.
What's the point? Like, Wesley Snipes was great Blade for the first movie and most of the second. He was absolutely shocking in the third, and he didn't even want to give a crap. And the discussion was recently as well. He's trying to get a Black Panther film off, around in the 90s as well. At one point before Blade, it's not a question of he can do it. I'm not saying he's 50 plus, he can't do it. I'm sure he could do it. That's not the question. It's at the point where you should keep his version of Blade separate from the new version. A new version. It's too far gone. There's no reason to keep those things connected. It's just silly. If he wants to have a cameo, give him another role, something, fine. No worries there either. But cast someone younger, keep them for able to establish them for a length of time. But then this adds a bigger question: do you want to add vampires mythos to the current existing Marvel universe?
Yeah, it's definitely a big question. I mean, I saw the Blade TV series, which came out in the early 2000s, and I quite enjoyed that. It was a slightly different variation from the movies, but it still felt like it could still be set up in modern day. So maybe if they do want to bring Blade back into the MCU, they could maybe go the TV route, or they could go the original movie. But yeah, as you rightly stated, that Wesley Snipes in the third one was just terrible when he was laying on that slab.
Oh, it's not even that. He on the you can read
his eyes open.
Well, I was going to say, you can read dozens of stories about how difficult he was to deal with on that film set too, and that's why Ryan Reynolds and Jessica Biel end up with like way more screen time because they were the only ones turning up to set, and he would just go and sit in his
trailer until he was needed for a close-up.
Oh, not even that. Like, sometimes he would refuse to come out, and he was just apparently just getting stoned and not doing his job. So, if he's turning up and he's fully committed, I'm sure it's fine. But then, like, it was after that. I don't know. Who knows? I mean, it'll be up to them to decide. I suspect Marvel and Disney will probably steer clear of that, I think, personally. But could be proven wrong, and all of a sudden there's Wesley Snipes alongside Captain Marvel.
Speaking of which, we'll talk about the Captain Marvel reaction with James Woods coming out. And
well, I guess this is part of a bigger picture, really. It's not just James Woods. James Woods, it's one thing for social commentary on the internet. Like, people have all got their opinions, and in fact, we can't talk. We're talking here right now. We all got our opinions on things, and that's fine. But James Woods, as an actor, you should not be making statements about other actors. I think that's just one of those things you should just be accepting of the fact, because otherwise you're opening yourself up as a public figure to the same criticism. But I guess that's the bigger picture. I mean, I don't think Brie Larson... I think that Brie Larson's got an unfair statement put against her. She made a comment, and people have taken it the wrong way. The mistake she made was the wording she chose, that she then later had to re-clarify. And the clarification wasn't good enough, and it's not what people were hearing. What people were hearing is, like, I'm a white male. I don't want to be at... Obviously, I'm not the audience for this Captain Marvel film. And she's basically saying this is not the case. And it was nothing like that at all. It was talking about diversity in reviews, and the audience tends to be of a particular type. And she's completely true. And her clarification statement, if you just read that, makes more sense, which is that she's like, it's not about taking seats away from the table, it's about adding more. It's about having more diversity on top of what already exists. Perfectly understandable. And James Woods has just jumped on the bandwagon of, like, you shouldn't be telling your audience who they are and what they can and can't be. It's like, well, it's not really the point. It's about making sure that audience that's already there also is open to the idea of having more people in the audience with them, and more critics of talking, and more people in the industry. I mean, that's the simple truth about it. It's the same problem she's talking about applies to all facets of the industry: directors, producers, writers, editors. Majority are white males. So, it's simple truth. There's no harm in saying that as a statement. It's an unfortunate truth. Did you have anything to say about the James Woods thing? So I feel like I just rambled on.
No, it's fine. I think the only thing that I was really going to mention about the James Woods is that he mentioned about Alita as well.
Oh, yes. Go see Alita. I forgot about that. Yeah, no. Do you know what? I don't have any problems with that. The simple truth is that there's truth. That, like, people were saying, like, the movie was sold on her as a character, and definitely more people should have gone and seen that. There's nothing wrong with that statement. It's just he's putting out the context of which he's putting under. The simple thing is it's missing the bigger picture, which is that we need more female-led movies in general.
Absolutely.
So why would you belittle someone's statements in general when we could do that?
Yeah, which is quite sad in the current world we live in. We'll move on to slightly sadder news. Recently, there's been a Luke Perry death. Which I think surprised a lot of people, because he was definitely a 90s heartthrob for a lot of people out there.
The funny thing is, I always remember more about Luke Perry was the jokes on The Simpsons.
Absolutely.
I know that's really horrible, but it's actually
what
because
have you made Sideshow Luke Perry in 19th Century Carousel?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then the him getting shot out of the cannon.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, I remember people making. I think it was The Simpsons as well. It wasn't a one with him voicing, but it was a sight gag where it was a joke about how old he actually was in comparison to the rest of the cast, and like them having to like push back all his face, like. And it's funny because as he got older, he actually developed like almost the wrinkles that they had drawn.
Right. I remember that. Yeah.
And over age, it was quite funny. I always thought that was kind of almost foreshadowing. You know what? I think people, obviously, a new audience has been seeing him on Riverdale as Archie's dad. Nothing but kind words coming out about how awesome he was as a person. Like none of his co-stars have come out saying anything less than how nice and genuine he was. Which just tells you, it was just unfortunate news. Like literally the day, I think it was the day before or 2 days before, he had a stroke later on, but it was about a day or two before the stroke happened. They had announced this kind of almost reunion of 90210 as like almost a jokey parody version, I think, of themselves. But it was only him and Shannon Doherty that had not signed up, and I assume he hadn't signed up because of his commitments to Riverdale. Yeah. And who knows about Shannon Doherty? She just does whatever she wants. So it was unfortunate, but I guess the timing was perfect because obviously all these people had just got back together to help announce this reboot. So they were all kind of talking about, things that were relevant to 90210 especially. And so it was just unfortunate. It was like unfortunate timing, I think. but yeah, really, that's a sad thing. But I mean, I say this about any deaths of celebrities and so forth.
true,
you know,
yeah.
there's a big difference when obviously there's obviously the sort of outpouring of how untimely at just 52 and like just
Yeah,
how nice
absolutely.
of a guy.
Yeah, it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy, yeah. Which is just a heck of a shock to everyone. We'll move on to the trailers now. So there was a Hellboy trailer released. Now, my personal opinions, I've read some of the comics and I've seen some of the animated films as well. Is the Ron Perlman films?
I was going to say, did you see the Ron Perlman?
Yeah, and I've seen those, and quite frankly, I think I'll give this one a miss. I may wait till it's like $10 on DVD. I may pick it up.
I'll probably end up seeing it because I'm going to see so much this year anyway. It didn't enthuse me. We went and saw Captain Marvel, which we'll get to later on. One of the trailers played, which I think was an international version because there was some stuff in it I hadn't seen. I don't have anything wrong with the casting, but it just feels the tone doesn't feel consistent. It's almost like the hellish stuff is too vivid and too bright and not dark enough, and the daytime stuff is also kind of like very flatly lit, and it seems very like it's trying hard to be funny and silly, and nothing really I don't know if this is how you felt it, but it's like nothing really landed in the trailer. There was nothing that made you go, "Oh, that's kind of cool" or interesting. It was all like I think the comment you made after you saw it was the only cool thing was the shot with him with the fire crown and the
yeah.
And it's like if it's one shot out of a trailer is like, oh, that's an interesting visual design. It's like cool, and that's it. That was literally it.
Yeah, well, I mean, the fire crown to me, I mean, if you know the Hellboy comics or any other media of Hellboy, like to see him with a crown to me was like a really cool moment. But I just think if that's something I take away from the trailer to make me go, I just want to see it for that 3-second bit. You got to do better to impress me.
The thing is as well, like usually you reboot a franchise on the back of something that's either you feel is stale or can't be sustainable or didn't do very well. But as far as I'm concerned, like I need to look into the box office, but as far as I'm concerned, I thought the Del Toro Hellboy films were relatively successful. So why didn't they continue those? Like he's obviously a director who has a very specific vision. That vision played very well into the style of those films. Why you would get rid of him and just shoot something that looks like this, I don't understand. Maybe that's it. It just doesn't feel unique enough. It just looks like a generic sci-fi monster movie almost. You know, that's what I want to call it because it doesn't look that fantastic. It doesn't have any. It doesn't elevate. This is kind of the problem I think I had with the most recent Harry Potter film as well. The Fantastic Beasts. It's very. There's nothing amazing visually going on. It doesn't make me go wow. It doesn't make it. Yeah, I don't know. It's a hard question. Do you? I mean, so for fact you said you're probably not going to see it. Are you thinking that it's the same sort of things? Is that the reason why it's putting you off?
Oh, maybe. I mean, we'll put it this way: it is only the first trailer, so there could be more in the second trailer, which might actually make me go, "Oh wow, I might go see it now." But yeah. Well, I guess we'll wait and see because we've still got a couple of months until it comes out. So I think I'll play it by ear.
I know you haven't got this on the list, but I just thought about it now. You've actually finally seen the Dumbo trailer too because I keep asking you to see it. And it played during Captain Marvel. And it's kind of the same feel I get from that, but as I said, I'm not the same audience. I mean, visually it's more interesting than the Hellboy trailer. I'm not trying to equate those two things, but it doesn't make me want to go see it anymore. And I think that was what I was trying to get across, and I think this is a perfect example of how that was to me. It's exactly the same with Hellboy.
Absolutely. I mean, I was surprised. I mean, I think for months had been Dumbo trailers, and somehow I'd avoided them. Well, not deliberately, but I'd just never seen them on Facebook or YouTube or anywhere.
Or had gone to a movie and
or gone to a movie. Like, I mean,
until we saw Captain Marvel.
Yes, I could have searched for it, but
you weren't that fussed.
Yeah, I wasn't that fussed about it until I actually saw it, and I was like, oh wow, okay, so this is what it could look like. So I'll say I'm pleasantly surprised by it, but still, I probably wouldn't rush out to go see it because of Disney being the whole live action fest now.
Yeah, well, we've talked plenty about that,
and I
don't know where these will go. We'll be interested to see where they lie by the end of the year. This is a huge year for Disney still. You've got all these Marvel films. You've got another Star Wars coming out. You've got, I think there's three live action films due out this year. So we'll see where they are by the end of the year and where everything lies. That'll be the telling part for sure.
Absolutely. Now, one of the other most recent trailers to come out too was Good Boys.
Oh yeah, I showed you this because
Yeah.
I thought it was hilarious.
Now, I remember seeing this on Facebook, but not actually watching it. I just sort of glanced past it and think anything of it until you showed me it. Now, wow, I just don't even know where to start with it. It's just, if you've seen the trailer, I'm just dumbfounded by it.
I like the setup for the restricted. I watched the Red Band trailer first, obviously. I think there's a Green Band trailer as well, but the Red Band trailer plays on the fact that the kids in it can't watch the Red Band trailer, and Seth Rogen is sitting there telling them that it's fucked up that they can't
Can't watch their own trailer
for the movie they're in because the content in it is not rated for their age group. It's which is so weird that you can make a movie like that and it's so weird.
Watch it. And it begs the question too. They can't go to the premiere either. Or they could go to the premiere and walk the carpet, but they can't go and watch the movie.
Yeah, I never thought about that.
As well.
Yeah, they're not allowed into
unless is there some sort of special clearance that they're allowed, like their parents sign some sort of waiver or something.
Yeah. It's very interesting. How I came across it was it probably would have come up on news feeds and stuff anyway, but I came across it because I saw a news story about it. It was just like the most controversial trailer of the year for parents or something, which, as you correctly pointed out, is more likely the most controversial film of the year for parents but then I guess it's probably not because this is a hard thing on the internet. Obviously, kids could just watch the trailer. There's nothing really stopping kids from if they manage to get past an age gate or something.
If you know how to use a drop-down arrow with like what year were you born in?
Or
kids are pretty smart.
Yeah,
these
exactly.
days.
Fake the age on the account or using a parent's account anyway. They're just going to be able to watch the trailer, and that's the inherent difference. I think that's where that statement is going because kids will see the trailer. They know some of the kid actors in that from other movies. So they're likely to potentially see this movie and then want to see it, and then whereas the parents can obviously, or the theaters themselves can restrict who actually gets to see the film much easier than say who sees the trailer.
Yeah.
The general gist seems to be that the kids are going to go to a birthday party and there's like spin the bottle and they're giving crap to the main kid who's got an interest in one of the girls that he doesn't know how to kiss, and so they decide to spy on the neighbor with a drone, and then the neighbor destroys the drone for them spying on her, and then they have to replace the drone. It's like their dad's drone, one of the kid's dad's drones, and it gets them to a mess of trouble. It's listed as being the producers of Superbad. It feels like a kid's version of Superbad. It really does. I feel like right down to in the liquor store stealing a bottle of alcohol feels like them trying to get the alcohol with a fake ID. Like I can see the connection to it. It's so interesting that we can go 12 years down the course from Superbad and go to like age shift the kids and get away with this. I honestly, I do have to say it's pretty funny.
I mean, even with the Seth Rogen cameo in the trailer, if you call it a cameo.
Well, he's the producer.
Yeah.
I think a writer probably.
It wouldn't surprise me if he and many other Superbad actors show up in this as well, if that's the case.
It would be. I think it would almost be funny if you had the three actors from Superbad turn up and play older versions of the characters from Superbad in just one scene. That would be kind of funny. I don't think it's going to happen, but it would be hilarious. I would actually be so down for that.
Yeah.
Just like, Christopher Mintz-Plasse turns up as Fogel in like a random scene and tries to call him his McLovin or something. That'd be pretty funny.
Or at least Bill Hader and Seth Rogen in a police car blasting Panama.
Yeah, true.
Doing donuts as well. Just small little
nods to put it in the same universe, because I don't see why you couldn't do that. It would be funny. I think it would be hilarious.
Now, there's also been another new trailer for Aladdin.
God.
I think has surprised a lot of people, and I pretty much mentioned this in the last podcast we did as well, of that I'd be okay if Will Smith was human, and I say that in brackets, quotations, sorry, and I'd be happy with that, and it turns out that he will.
But this is I probably should have said this in the last podcast, but I always expected that was going to be the case. I didn't expect he was going to be blue for the entire movie. The problem is, though, and this is the question I asked you when we first talked about this, is how much of it was planned to be like that anyway, and how much will change based on the backlash of the blueness? Because what I could imagine they did is, because you were trying to say, they have to reshoot. I was like, no, they probably shot Will Smith motion capture plus all location, and then put the two together with CG augmentation. They just remove some of the CG shots and replace him as Will Smith, or the genified Will Smith but without the blue. Take the blue away.
Yeah.
probably one or the other. Like, it doesn't seem like it's that hard of an ask. So that'll be very interesting to see. That's how much of the Blue Genie appears in the film. It seems so obvious that when he's first released from the lamp, he's going to be blue. Like, that was
that's the most obvious place.
And but the reaction obviously is, God, you'd think it was like one of the most horrible, controversial things I've ever committed to film.
Yeah. Especially like the week after, there was like all the comparisons of like who wore it better, whether it was Navi from Avatar, and we mentioned this in the last podcast, so we won't go on.
But to be fair, the trailer looks fine. It doesn't make me want to go see it anymore. Some people may go, "Yep, cool." It's nice to hear the singing from some of the songs. I figured that some of the stuff that Will Smith was going to do would be Will Smithified, for lack of a better term, a bit more rappy, a bit more wordy.
Wouldn't surprise me if he comes out of the woodwork for another song for it or another single for it.
Yes,
perhaps.
that's possible,
like,
but
not necessarily in the movie, but for like the credit scene or something.
But but I mean also just his performance in the film, when he has to kind of perform, it'll be more of his style, which is why you would get someone like him to do it. Yeah, I don't know. It is what it is. I'm not surprised. I'll be interested to see. I mean, it seems to, if it's done what Disney wanted it was just to quash complaints that the blueness was weird. People are being easily led on the fact that this trailer just has very minimal amount of that, and that they should still expect him to turn up blue in the movie. Don't think that that's going to be otherwise.
Yeah. Don't expect him to be human for the whole film.
No, that's it.
No.
Exactly, entirely.
Yeah, and of course, I was still awake when this came around, and I just happened to be scrolling through Facebook. A new Avengers trailer just dropped out of nowhere for Endgame.
I liked it because it was the idea that it was like a new old trailer, because they use heaps of stuff to set up connective tissue to the previous Marvel universe, and I was kind of expecting that's kind of the trailer I was expecting for the first trailer.
Yeah,
which is that it should show scenes of Iron Man,
the start of Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor.
Like when and that's exactly what they did.
Yeah,
but it was good. It worked well. I don't quite understand the desaturation, but leaving the color red in there.
Yeah,
there must be a reason for that.
I was confused by that as well.
It's like a signifier of something.
Yeah, it'd make sense if the final title card was red or something like that, but there's no red in it at all. So
yeah, I don't know.
It confused me as well.
Is it a clue to something?
That's the big question.
Interesting. But yeah, enough of the stuff to see, obviously, and then you get to see the Avengers clearly in their new suits.
Yeah, the new white suits, which look to be potential PIM technology.
Yes, yeah, which
quantum realm.
Because the one that's the most telling is the fact that Ant-Man's wearing the same type of suit, and obviously his suit is important to his abilities, so that clearly tells you something. People have suspected that in the original trailer there's gaps in the group and that there's people missing. And obviously in that trailer you see more people. It obviously completely gives away that. Yeah, but it also completely shows you that Stark survives.
Yeah. It also asks the question that the previous trailers and the Super Bowl spot have been from the first 15-20 minutes of the movie. And it now asks the question, when's this set? Is this within the first 20 minutes as well?
There's there's obviously a lot of stuff that is early on, but then there's some stuff that can't be that early. Like there's that shot of Paul Rudd walking around the neighborhood. He's obviously gotten out of... See, this is the thing, immediately tells you that the set up cliffhanger at the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp that connected it to Infinity War isn't a big deal. He manages to get himself out somehow. But we knew that anyway, because obviously
you see him at the end of the first trailer. Yeah.
So they're not worried about keeping little things like that out, because they just expect, I guess, the audience knows that the characters are going to reunite. And I guess it's the same reason why they're not so fussed about showing off the fact that Tony Stark actually is obviously going to make it back to Earth, because I think everyone just assumed that anyway. It's more about the moment of pathos it gives him when he thinks he's not going to get out of the situation in space.
Yeah, there's also the one thing where they've come out and said that there's time jumps between the end of Infinity War and Endgame, like several months or a year or whatever it is.
Well, that shot with Paul Rudd and walking around his missing posters and the house is all overgrown gives that indication it's been some time since the snap has happened. Was it the decimation?
Decimation, yeah. It's one thing I want to point out is the multiple hair changes that Scarlett Johansson goes through as well. There's like one shot she's got short blonde hair, another one where she's firing the gun at the target. It's like done up in like a ponytail, and then later on in the trailer she's got red hair again, and then it's
got
longer red hair still.
But then and then she's also got a streak of blonde in the red that you notice that's kind of tied up as almost like
So it's like again, how much time has passed?
It feels
during
like
this whole movie.
Yeah, I feel like this is the thing that's more interesting about this. The styles that change gives an indication of like various moments of time passing. I suspect the movie will pick up immediately after, and I think it probably has been confirmed that it picks up immediately after the previous one. But that doesn't mean it has to obviously stay there. And I think that's going to be the more interesting telling part of what's going on. I guess on the style of hairstyles, have you seen all the comments about Hawkeye's
the mohawk?
Yeah. Yeah. I thought people would have seen it in the previous trailer because obviously you see him, he takes the hood down, you see the side of it.
Shaved head.
Obviously people have missed this. The best
some
joke
reason it seems to be worse now than it was in the original.
Yeah, the best joke that someone made, I did have a good laugh, is obviously it was like, Hawkeye was clearly getting his hair cut in the middle of when the snap happened.
Yeah.
Barbara was like, I'm just doing your sides, I'll do the rest later, and then
gone.
I'll just have to put up with this.
Maybe that's what they're criticising, because maybe they assume something like that happened and he had to finish it himself, so that's why it looks so terrible, perhaps. But speaking of Hawkeye, you definitely see him. I think he's training his wife to shoot an arrow.
His wife or his daughter? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. I can't remember. I have to go back and rewatch it. But he's teaching someone in his life, which looks to be on the Barton farm that we see. And
he doesn't have this shaved sides
so
of his hair.
It's definitely touches on the aspect that his family definitely got snapped away, and that would lead into when you first see him.
Yeah, I think
the first trailer, and a lot of people are speculating on that.
Well, it makes sense because they've got to show when he turns up, they've got to show what happened, and he'll probably explain that the reason he's doing this is because his family's disappeared, and then it'll go back to a flashback, and maybe that moment with the shooting the arrows is exactly when it happens. Like absolutely. We're going to see that happen. It'll be interesting. I'm mildly excited in general just to see what happens. Whether or not the film will end up being good, I hope it will, because Infinity War was so good. I really did enjoy it. I've enjoyed most of the Marvel films for the last few years. I mean, I've talked to a few people that are like, all right, after Endgame, I need to give it a break. And there's so many superhero movies we've got. Not just that, but also DC stuff coming over the next 2 years. And this change, obviously, with Fox to Disney means that they've got to re-establish, and we've still got 2 X-Men films due out. It's going to be interesting to see where the future of superhero films lie after Endgame smashes probably numerous records and comes a big smash, and Marvel outlays its plans. How excited people get.
Yeah, one thing I want to touch on too is that, do you reckon you could sit through the full 3 hours?
Yeah.
If the rumored runtime goes,
if it's engaging, Infinity War didn't feel like it was a long film. It was still a relatively long film. I think it's still about 2.5 hours. It didn't feel it because the pace was good pace. If it's got the same pace, and I'd be surprised if it doesn't. To be quite honest, there's a lot to get through, I'm sure. It should be fine. I'd be very interested to see in America they used to do those marathons for all the Marvel films. If one of the theaters will actually do a 22 film marathon.
It wouldn't surprise me.
No, because last time when Infinity War came out, they didn't do every film. They just did the important ones that were relevant to what they thought was important to Infinity War. So it was all the Avengers. It was the first Iron Man, the first Captain America, the first Thor, third Ragnarok, Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2. I can't remember what else. There was a few others. Doctor Strange was in there. Like all the ones that were going to be important characters. So they didn't show all of them, but I could imagine it would be. I don't even know what the runtime would be for 22 Marvel films, especially if Endgame ends up being 3 hours long.
I reckon if you average it, each movie, just over 2 hours?
2 to 3, I guess.
So, what's that, a couple of days?
Oh, easily. It'd be 2.5 days. I will do the maths on this and come back next time with the actual total runtime and actual length. Because it's going to be very interesting. I don't think you want to do it. I don't think I could do it. I've done 24-hour movie marathons, but
you couldn't do that. No,
those 24-hour movie marathons are sometimes closer to 25, and then by the time you've got up and you're up for about 30 hours, you're draining. You're
pretty shattered. Yeah, I remember seeing online of like everyone going, Endgame to be 3 hours ? And then like underneath, I've seen it as a picture, and then it's of the hobbits from Lord of the Rings going, Lord of the Rings fans go, yeah, no problem.
Yeah, of course.
You know,
yeah,
because
makes
those
sense.
films are so long, so
Yeah.
they could definitely
Yeah,
sit through
definitely.
Endgame.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
It should be. If it's at the pace the previous film,
It'll be
no
fine.
problem.
No, just don't go in with a big, gallon of soda.
Yeah,
You'll
unless
be
you
fine.
expect to have to run out. Or
Yeah.
go make sure you go to the bathroom before you go into the movie.
Yeah,
I wonder if they'll ever bring out intermissions to films. Like you feel like when you get to a film that's 3 hours long, you should always have an intermission.
there was rumored that they were going to, but then they're like, oh yeah, but you break up the story then.
It's always been argued. We used to have intermissions. It wasn't
Yeah.
a problem. The last time, with the exception of back in the early 90s, they still had intermissions in films. But, it was always a good thing for people to go to the toilet, but also get, restock on their foods, which is great for I'm sure the movie theaters appreciate because people buy more stuff. I feel like an ice cream now. I'll go buy that, whatever. The last movie I went to without had an intermission was the Indiana Jones thing because it had to give the orchestra a break. So, but it was kind of nice. I kind of enjoyed it. It's not you don't do it all the time, but I feel like a movie, like when you start to do a movie of that length, it's not the worst. You find a good point at which you bring up an intermission.
No, and I think the last movie I went to was when I went and saw 2001 at the
That-
IMAX with my girlfriend.
They had an intermission.
I think I think it had an accidental intermission per se. It still came up on the screen saying intermission, but
Did it continue?
well, no, that's the thing. Like one of the guys, like a couple of seats down from where we were, actually got up, and I think he went to go and tell them that the intermission part had come up. So I don't know if it was supposed to be an intermission or
Were the lights still out? Was it still dark?
yeah, the lights were still out.
So it's not like it was. Yeah,
So
that
it's
doesn't
not
help.
like it was an official intermission. So I don't know whether someone hadn't checked the reel or checked the actual footage or whatever. But
Yeah.
I think the last time I'd seen 2001 before that, I think the intermission part came up, but it was only like 30 seconds or something. But this was at least a good 10 minutes or so.
Wow. Okay. Yeah,
So-
so it was actually supposed to be an intermission.
Well, that's the thing. I don't know. Or someone just hadn't checked it and it had just
Didn't-
frozen or something.
didn't know that had an intermission in it. Hmm.
So I don't know if it was an actual reel or if it was a digital projection. I don't know. So
Weird.
But yeah. So we'll move on to what we've seen as of late. You went and saw Escape Room?
Yeah, I went to Escape Room first. It was we joked about this already that
Yeah.
it was basically Saw Room. It wasn't that far removed. It wasn't bloody or gory, which is for people who don't like that about Saw films, but like the idea of Saw films. And Escape Room's perfect. There's a little bit of bone crunchiness and but nothing gory that you see, and it's just a lot more implications. A tiny bit of blood in one scene, but not much. Like the idea behind it is kind of okay, but it just kind of never really gelled with me. Some people will probably love it because it's like they like the idea of it and these strangers having to work together and trapped in escape rooms, and there's obviously a big plot behind the whole scenario and why these people are there and all that sort of stuff. It's all very Saw-like in some respects, but it also reminds me, if people have seen like the Balco Experiment or anything like that, they'll kind of see maybe where it's going. They'll kind of feel like they know what type of film this is as well, which is not that dissimilar in some respects. Again, minus the fact that this film doesn't really have the gore factor as, like, say, Balco as well. I couldn't highly recommend people going to see it at the cinema, but I could say if you wanted something entertaining for an evening and you don't have to think about it too much and you just want to have, you want a horror movie that's not too scary, probably a good choice. Like it's very modern and very stylistic, and the best thing about the entire movie about it is the cast is pretty game and the production value is amazing. Like the escape room concept is played up to the umpteenth thing, and it's very unique, and some of the ideas in it in that respect are very cool, but very otherwise generic. So yeah.
I haven't seen it myself, but it begs the question of how many people will go and see it and then will potentially think about going to do an actual escape room and then go, you know what, I may not.
Yeah, I would say if you were ever thinking about an escape room and hadn't, this would definitely not make you want to go. That's the case. If people don't like escape rooms anyway, if they've got this idea of claustrophobia being stuck somewhere, it's not a good idea, obviously, because you're going to be in there for a timed length of time. But at least in those, they do discuss the idea of escape rooms for people that may not really understand them in the film at the beginning. They have a character who's done a lot of escape rooms, and that's why he's excited to be there. And he kind of goes through what an escape room would normally be like when, of course, the escape room becomes not normal. In that respect, yeah, you probably would put people off.
Yeah. Now, as we mentioned before, we both went and saw Captain Marvel along with my girlfriend as well. Now, what were your thoughts on it? We'll start with you.
I really enjoyed it. I've had so many people ask me, "Have you gone to see Captain Marvel yet?" Of course. I really enjoyed it. There was things I didn't like about it, but I think the easiest thing for me to say, as far as like MCU, it's like above middle level kind of film. It's enjoyable. There's some faults. Characterization's fine. Like the way the story plays out is all good. There's some surprises. Some good sense of humor. The stuff that works really well between Brie Larson and Samuel L. Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like a buddy cop road trip kind of thing. That works really well. The action scenes are where it kind of falls down. Marvel films have a consistent issue across the board with like really good action scenes, which is so weird when you think about it. Someone pointed this out to me the other day, and I never really put it. They had never thought about it in these terms. I thought about this, but not in the way that they put it, which is that superhero comic books are so important on action, right? Like things happen and they have consequences, and it's usually action scenes. But the thing that Marvel films do really well is kind of the more personal moments between the action scenes, and the action scenes sometimes are superfluous to the point. It's so backwards that's the thing that's made them so different in some ways. Like that, it's more about the characters and it's more about the situations than it is perhaps about the fights.
Yeah. Absolutely.
The exceptions are few and far between. Some of the fight scenes in Winter Soldier are really good. Some of the fight scenes in like the Avengers is probably the most iconic in that sense, because Joss Whedon spent that especially the fight in New York. It's almost like splash panels, it's like following characters around and going between characters, and the big sweeping iconic shot of all of them standing there in the semicircle, and like those sorts of stuff. They create these iconic images, but they're still not really about the battle when you think about it. They're about moments in the battle that looks interesting visually, cinematic, all that sort of stuff. So that's kind of the issue I think the MC has about a lot of its fights, is that they don't. I didn't give stuff enough credit when I was thinking about this. You think back to Thor Ragnarok, Taika did really well with some of that fight stuff. Think about the arena fight between Thor and Hulk. Actually really well planned. It's not given enough credit because obviously Hulk's a big CG character. Yeah. But it's all understandable. There's nothing in that fight that makes you go, what's going on? But that's the problem I have with Captain Marvel, especially, is like a lot of fights. And even when it's not fights and it's just her with her powers and flying all over the place, it's like sometimes a little too close to the screen. It's like a lot hard to follow, and it kind of detracts. There are other complaints, and if you look on the internet, you'll see this is very much some of those fight scenes also come with some very on the nose 90s music cuts.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I enjoyed about Captain Marvel is that yes, it was set in the 90s, and there was the odd sort of 90s nostalgia, like you see it in the trailer as well, but she crashes through the roof of a blockbuster, and I kind of went into it thinking that there'd be a lot of, oh, hey, remember this from the 90s? Like,
remember?
I
remember.
Like a slinky or, just something really 90s, and it would just be really in your face. But I was pleasantly surprised that really Blockbuster was pretty much it, or even the cardboard standee of True Lies with Arnie. She stands up and shoots because she thinks it's a person. A person, yeah. Which
he has a gun in his hand.
Yeah. A side note on that, I read online that originally that was going to be The Mask. Jim Carrey's The Mask, because it came out the year before.
Oh, yeah,
but
of course.
Apparently because it was Dark Horse Comics, and I think it was a competing studio or something, like a film studio or something. Yeah, they couldn't get clearance for it because they thought that the green mask naturally would make her think it's a Skrull, which I thought, that'd be a good idea, but of course they couldn't get the clearance, so they went, we'll do
True Lies. It's got a gun. That's fair. That's really clear, actually. Yeah. That's a good. Oh wow, that's really cool. There isn't too much, which is nice, and like her clothing choice, and then he makes a joke about it being very grunge, is sort of era appropriate. She just literally takes it wholesale off a mannequin exactly as it was, lose the plaid or something was.
Yeah, that's what it was. You actually had like one of them tied around her middle
because that's what the 90s. It's reasonably light. I think the music stuff was probably the most on the nose. Yeah, I think that's probably the thing that most people are going to notice. It didn't feel like Guardians, where it felt integral to the thing. It's like all of a sudden, here's that 90s hit to make this scene work, like
to make you remember it's still set in the 90s. Yeah.
People have also said, do I need to see this before Endgame? I'm like, I kind of feel like you have to, because I feel like Captain Marvel is going to be so important. But then again, I don't know. Without seeing Endgame, it's kind of one of those hard questions. I think it's entertaining and funny and clever enough that it's worth recommending in that sense. Like, you should see it just because it's not bad film. Like even Marvel sometimes at their worst, maybe Thor: The Dark World accepted, and maybe depending on your taste, the Ed Norton Hulk.
Yeah.
They're usually better than some middling of the road, other Hollywood films. Like they're still entertaining and enjoyable. You're not going to go walk out and have a bad time. Some are more forgettable than others, and in that regard, then Captain Marvel might be sitting just slightly above that personally, but that again depends on the person. The other criticism, a lot of complaints, and I'm going to bring this back to what we were talking about earlier with Brie Larson's regards to the promotion, like the stand with her / a hero, and the fact that all these complaints were like, oh, Brie Larson looks bored. It's like, no, it's just the selection of shots they chose were quite often when she was standing up in defiance and she just got this grim look of determination on her face. But she's actually a pretty likeable character throughout the movie.
She's really good.
She cracks jokes. She's clever and funny and warm and smart and all the things that you would hope that you would expect to see in this sort of film. Like, there's nothing wrong with the character. And so if anyone is going off the trailers and going, oh, she looks like she's grumpy, and you're missing the point.
Yeah. Now, there's a part that happened in the movie that wasn't necessarily funny in the movie, but because of something happened in the movie which made both myself and Robbie laugh. Now, Goose the cat, who everybody speculated online will be a Flerken in disguise.
This is a spoiler, by the way, if you don't know this.
If you don't know what a Flerken is, look it up or
don't.
Avoid listening.
Avoid listening, or just think about Flerken and then just go, right, cool, okay, I'll just be what I'm going to see in the movie.
So there was a certain part, I won't spoil it if you haven't seen it, that I think you knew what it was beforehand as well. Didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'd looked it up as well because I'd never heard it before. So
I didn't look it up. I saw someone like a year ago. It must have been a year ago, because the Flerken thing itself is relatively new. It's only like 4 or 5 years old. It was only added in the comics like 2014. So it's very modern to the Captain Marvel comics.
So my girlfriend was there and she was really excited just to see the cat.
Yeah, she's excited about the cat.
I don't think she cared about the movie at all. She just wanted to see the cat, to be fair. And as soon as a certain thing happened, she was just hands over her mouth, a gasp.
Yeah.
And I just happened to look over and I started just laughing my ass off. So I tapped Rob on the shoulder and I showed him and he just started laughing as well.
She looked so shocked.
Yeah, so horrific, yeah.
It was like the weirdest thing she'd ever seen in her life. It was so funny. I think it's just completely, she said it was completely unexpected. I was talking to her afterwards. It was like, she's like, I didn't expect that at all. It's like, that's good. That's what you want. You want to be surprised when you go to that. It's a good moment too. And the moments that follow it up too as well are pretty funny. Which is good. I mean, it's worth it pointing out at this point as well that if you're going to go, stay, because there's 2 end credits. Yeah. There's one kind of after the first set of like titles, and then there's one at the very end, which is relevant to what we're talking about, which is why I'm remembering this right now. It's funny, like, yeah. I think that's the good thing about the movie. There's lots of little moments like that you don't expect, and so in that sense, they're not twists, but they're surprises.
Yeah.
There's a major plot one right in the middle that's really cool, and it allows one of the actors to really kind of stretch out on what could have been a very generic role. You'd probably agree with that as well. I'm trying to say
avoid what it is.
It's what it is, but it's nice. It's a great moment, and it'll be very interesting to see where the series goes forward, because it's very unexpected. But they could completely change it again, and not, it doesn't have to be this character or be related to this character or whatever. But very interesting anyway, I think.
One thing I want to know is that we've seen in previous Marvel films where they've de-aged or made people slightly older using CG technology, but this is the first time they've actually done it for someone for practically a whole film.
Yeah, Samuel Jackson. Well, they also have Clark Gregg.
And it's Coulson,
It's Coulson, and he looks okay, but he's not as good as Samuel Jackson.
They've smoothed him a little, but not as much as the likes of Sam Jackson.
They spend a lot of time. But Sam Jackson also, people don't realise this. Like, I didn't realise this either. Like, he was wearing a wig for a good chunk of that movie too. So they've added that, and like I've seen on set stuff, and I was like, oh well, with the wig, it makes him already look quite younger than he is, and then they've just kind of smoothed out his face and added less wrinkles and age, and kind of made him look more rounded to what he was at the time. And so it's a combination of factors, and obviously they might even have a stand-in who, because they've done this a lot on these de-aging things, you have another person who's roughly the age they want, who looks approximately to the person of the right height and everything, and they kind of use all these elements together. Because obviously the hardest thing to get right is the eyes, so they have to make sure it's the proper actor and everything. But it's spectacular, especially
Yeah.
for Sam Jackson. You completely forget that you're looking at an actor who's completely being de-aged right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
You really do.
And that asks this question too: is that would you want to see it more in potential prequel films like the Marvel Universe, where they've done this but previously?
I don't know. At this point, they've kind of established they'd have to change the tonal. I mean, essentially, in a lot of ways, Captain America, for example, was a prequel film because it's set in the 40s. But they've kind of almost established this as the first intergalactic thing that Fury and vis-a-vis Shield have come across. You know, like it would have to be kind of post-set Captain Marvel, but pre-set Iron Man kind of. Or you could have it concurrent to Iron Man, I guess, as well, but you'd have to have no later than that, really. So you've now narrowed it down to between the years of 1996, I guess, 95, 96, and 2000, if Iron Man set when the year it came out, 2008,
2010, whatever that was.
So they could essentially do another Captain Marvel fic where Fury actually paged her earlier than what we saw.
Yeah, that answers that question too. Has he paged her before? But
yeah, I like how Kevin Feige had kept that. He said that exact answer. How do you know it's not that this is the first time he has used it? Which is it's a valid statement. That this gives the universe the potential opening for anything. There could be something else that's happened. But the question also, it can't be too mass scale because pre-Avengers, because otherwise lots more people on the planet would know Tony Stark might have seen something or heard something. You know, some of these other characters that have been around would know that there's been other stuff. But then, there's always a chance that it's cover-ups and it's not as big scale, Yeah.
There's also another, without trying to spoil it as well, there's a bit in the film where Samuel L. Jackson, being a typical Samuel L. Jackson, where he mentions mother... that, but you weren't aware that he actually said mother-flerken.
Yeah, I was aware of that.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
Oh,
Didn't I tell you this?
No, I heard it from my girlfriend that
I told her.
Oh, you told her. Oh,
that's so funny.
Think you did.
Yeah, that's so funny. I told her because I was chuckling at that. I didn't hear it. You couldn't. Not everyone was able to hear it properly because at the time that it was happening, people were laughing at what was going on. Yeah. And I was like, did I just hear what I thought I heard? Yeah, when you were at the bathroom after the movie, I was like, I had such a good laugh at that. She's like, what? Because I was talking about the surprise of what she wasn't expecting. I was like, when that last bit with what happened, I was like, I enjoy the fact you said mother-flerken.
Is that what it was? Okay,
and so
I misunderstood.
That's so funny that she. Yeah, that's hilarious. So I've just found out now. Yeah, I told her. She's obviously told you. That's so funny.
Yeah. So there is actually a funny bit in the film where he does mention mother-flerken because of something happens, but I'll let you go and see that.
Yeah, that was funny. Yeah, no, I did. I told her that. That's so funny.
All right, we'll move on to something else now.
I was just going to say one last thing I really want to talk about is the Stan Lee cameo in that film.
Yeah.
No,
you're fine.
The internet has been gone crazy because they've actually tried to work out the logistics of this, which is the funniest part of it to me. But I think it's probably my favourite Stan Lee cameo, and there's a lot of them, but it's kind of going back to what we're talking about. I didn't find it distracting, or I didn't think about it in any terms like people on the internet are until after I saw people on the internet talking about it. But do you want to explain? I'm going to let you explain the cameo, because I think that...
Yeah, all right. So you see Captain Marvel, you see it in the trailer where she's on like a subway train, potentially chasing a Skrull, which by the trailer is that little old lady. Yep. It's not spoiling it. But as she's walking through the train, trying to find the Skrull, she comes across Stan Lee reading a script for Mallrats.
Yeah, and practicing his lines from the movie.
Yeah, it was something... I can't remember.
It's the True Believer line.
True Believer, thank you. Yeah, so it's when he's talking to Brody in Mallrats.
Which Kevin Smith just recently revealed was actual recording from the Mallrats set.
Oh.
Did you not know about this?
No, I didn't even know
Because
that.
apparently when they filmed Stan Lee doing the cameo, he was quite old and frail, and so he was having trouble with the lines, getting the lines right. So it's apparently that he called him to tell him about the cameo and said, hey, do you know if there was some alternate takes or rehearsal or anything that you've got of Stan rehearsing or doing the lines? And he goes, well, yeah, he wasn't a one-take wonder. I'm sure Universal, because it was Universal, Universal's probably got the footage. We can check with them. And it was just in this. He did a video blog post about it. Where he got very emotional. About the whole thing.
It
wasn't just that. It wasn't just the post, the Twitter post or whatever it was. It's an actual video blog.
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet. I need to watch that.
And But yeah, so I thought it was cool because I think it's time appropriate. It wasn't as in your face as it was as okay as the Blockbuster Video or the other 90s stuff that they kind of tricked. No, she used a Game Boy for a black communication
That's
device.
right, of course.
Stuff that was technologically relevant to its time period that aren't like blatantly in your face like the music cues. But the Stan Lee cameo opens up this can of worms for people because obviously if Stan Lee exists and so does Kevin Smith in this universe, then the subject matter of Mallrats has to do with comic book shops and the conversation that Stan Lee has with Brody about, which I also think was a nod to them looking at the scroll on the slab at the morgue.
Yeah.
Which again,
of course, yes.
But it adds this question like, well, hang on, then what does that make comic books and the conversation that Brody has with Stan in the movie in relation to in a world where superheroes actually exist? Yeah. And the thing is, people are overthinking this. I think the easiest argument to make about it is that you just say that Kevin Smith is a writer, and in his universe, superheroes don't actually exist. Only comic books about superheroes exist.
Yeah.
And therefore, Stan's cameo is about the idea that a guy who's written something in the world of actual superheroes was a comic book writer. Maybe he was a news reporter or a novelist or something, and so he's an expert on superheroes, and so they thought it would be funny that he was in charge of superhero comics in Kevin Smith's universe. But it's so weird because it does open this giant can of worms.
It's just so massive. You could go on about it for a long time.
I think people are just overthinking it. I think it's a nice little nod to the fact that one of Stanley's first, it was a second ever cinematic cameo, a cinematic role, because it was second after an Incredible Hulk film from the late 80s, which I think was
trial of the Incredible Hulk,
which I think was a TV movie anyway. So technically, it was his first ever cinematic cameo. Was Mallrats, and it happened to be released in 1995, so it seemed thematically correct. I think that's genius. I think it's very clever, and for someone especially like Kevin Smith, who constantly references comics in his movies. I mean, there's a blatant Batman reference in Mallrats itself.
Yeah.
You know, it's cool. That's really cool, and I'm not surprised he's very touched. So, yeah, very awesome. I thought.
Yeah, I mean, I think you pretty much hit it bang on the head. It's a nice little mention that he was in Mallrats. Let it go, move on.
Yeah, it doesn't have
don't think
Stan
about it
Lee
too
as
much.
himself. That's all you need to think about it.
Yeah. Now, as I was going to do before, we'll move on to I and my girlfriend. That's bad English. Myself and my girlfriend. My girlfriend and myself.
My girlfriend and I.
That'll work. My girlfriend and I both saw The Iron Giant with you last night as well, for the first time, which I think we talked about this when we both went and saw Bumblebee, which we mentioned in our first or second podcast.
Yeah, and I also told you that you need to see Ready Player One at that point as well, because The Iron Giant was in that.
So we've now seen Ready Player One several weeks ago now, and now we've just seen The Iron Giant, and you're bang on.
Yeah,
Bumblebee is Iron Giant.
Yeah, I mean, there's differences. Don't get it wrong, but there are different parallels to it, and not in a bad way. I never said that it was a bad thing, but it's there's definitely this whole giant thing from outer space, and that people are wanting it. And the thing that adds Bumblebee's element is that there's two factions. You've got the human commanders being under deception by the Decepticons. And that element to it as well. So essentially, it's like two factions coming to it, whereas that doesn't happen. It's just the U.S. government and especially a shady agent.
Yeah, who just he's power hungry in my opinion.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I mean, he wants people to. He's obviously also been the other thing that you kind of overlook is that you feel like he's investigating other similar things, and people don't believe him. And so it's not just that he wants power; he wants people to admit that he's right.
Yeah, and to prove people wrong.
Wrong, exactly. Yeah. So, but yeah, I hadn't seen it in a long time. It was just as good as I remembered. And your girlfriend made the valid point, which is it is very much a kids' film. Like it was aimed at a particular audience, kind of kids to teenagers at the time, early teenagers at the time, and that's definitely not untrue. But there's still some messages and pathos in it that adults would still enjoy. It's not the worst. And you can see why Brad Bird, I mean, it's such an important film, like overall to his film career, doing his animated thing and going on to Pixar afterwards. He'd obviously gone through Simpsons and so forth, but being able to make an actual animated film. I can't not hear Groot
as the giant.
In the giant now, which is unfortunate. But I guess that's the idea. I think I said this to you last night. It's like, I think that's obviously why they cast him in that role. He has very big similarities. And then you read that piece of trivia, which points out the exact parallels in self-sacrifice and all that sort of stuff. And
Self-sacrifice, then he comes back.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's which I hadn't even thought of, which is kind of funny as well. So yeah, no, it was good seeing it. What do you have more to say? Because I think this is more important. You're the one that I'd seen it before. You hadn't. So
yeah, I was just pleasantly surprised about it. I mean, I kind of felt that going into it, I knew there was the relationship between a boy and a giant robot, but I just thought it would be simply that, is that the boy's trying to persuade family and other people that, you know, he's friends with a giant robot, or he's like, I potentially thought that, you know, maybe he's getting bullied at school, so therefore his only friend would be the giant robot, and then, you know, something happens at the end, which I don't think I initially thought it would be some sort of military involvement per se, but
now you understand that when I
understand that
connected with Bumblebee.
Yeah. But yeah, I actually enjoyed it, and I'm surprised I hadn't seen it some 20 years earlier.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I talked about this as well a little bit with you, as you say. It's like the cultural films are cultural touchstones. Like you talk about your Star Wars, your Indiana Jones, all that sort of stuff. But then there's these personal touchstone films, and it doesn't mean that they're successful. I mean, The Iron Giant was not a successful film, but it's grown this cult because there was all these people that did grow up with it and said, like, it's actually a really good film. And obviously the industry didn't ignore it, because Brad Bird's career wouldn't have continued if it hadn't been
sort of gone up.
Expected to be, you know, even though it didn't do well at the box office, Warner Brothers were probably disappointed. People saw the talent and the skill set and the understanding of that he was, you know, he's good as his credits previously had provided. And that's the thing, like, there's these series of films. I mean, Spielberg produced, I think we talked about this, a bunch of films, cartoons, especially in the late 80s, and stuff like, you know, The Land Before Time and American Tail, which you still haven't seen either.
No.
Which I'm also very surprised at. I don't know. I mean, that's got an entirely different sub-story to it, as I think I was explaining. It's kind of like it's an explanation of Jews escaping Europe under persecution, except in this case it's cats and mice.
Yeah.
You know, and moving to America, I think it's in the Depression era or near to it. I just got that song back in my head now. There are no cats in America and the streets are paved with cheese. But, like, yeah, it's one of those things. I for some people, obviously, The Iron Giant will probably resonate with them very well. I don't even know how I saw it. It didn't for me because I was too old. I was not young when that movie came out. But it's still, I saw it relatively when it came out for some reason and really thought it was a very good film. I thought it was a very touching story about a boy and a giant robot.
One thing, looking at it now, I think too much time has passed. I mean, we were talking before about with Blade and potentially sequels or coming back for stuff, but if it came out at the time, I wouldn't be surprised if there was an Iron Giant sequel. But I definitely think now it's probably too much time has passed, especially with what happens at the end of the film. Maybe he moves on to like another child or something.
That's where I thought it would go to. I don't think he would come back to where he had been if they had made a sequel. But and it's based off a book. I don't know if there's a book series. I never actually looked into that. And there's a book. And I don't know how much of the book it's based on, if it's an original story based on the character in the book, or if loose, or if it's really accurate. I never really had looked into that. The thing is, though, it's still animated. There's no question if they wanted to really, if he 20 years on wanted to come back to that universe, all of a sudden Warner Brothers were like, you know what, the Iron Giant's actually really successful because you know, people resonated quite a lot with this recent appearance in Ready Player One, and you know, we were actually thinking about redeveloping it, but instead we may just make a sequel because we can. You can make an animated film. Yeah, now it's at this point now where animated films. There was a period in the 90s, and this probably didn't help towards its success, where people were just like, CG is the new animation. Yeah. We're not wanting traditional animation anymore. Whereas that's not entirely the truth now. Like, people appreciate seemingly all different types of animation styles, CG or not. So you could make a sequel that looks stylistically similar, advance the technology for the CG stuff that's in there, because obviously the Iron Giant itself is CG, some of the camera movement is CG.
And the rest of it's all cell drawn.
Cell drawing, combining those elements and making a sequel now that would be stylistically cleaner, but just look very similar.
Yeah, I'd definitely be happy with that as well. I mean, if they, you know, announce tomorrow, touch wood, I say that and it might happen. You never know these days. You know, if they came out and said we're going to make Iron Giant 2, I'd be like, all right then. I mean, I'd be happy with it.
Speaking of Brad Bird, I mean, it doesn't help The Incredibles was a success, but it took a long time to make a sequel.
Yeah, that's true.
Didn't stop them. Like, they thought about them.
Look at the other ones, like Toy Story 3.
Yeah.
I mean, what was that? 12 years after Toy Story 2 or something?
Yeah,
like that?
and then
10 years at least.
And we've got Toy Story 4 coming out this year. It's like 8 years removed.
So, you know,
Right.
there's no time but the present for a sequel, I guess.
And
regardless of time.
because it's just voice cast, you can bring back people.
Yeah.
No question, they can still do voices. So.
Absolutely. Before we move on to names from a hat, anything else more you want to add?
No, I haven't really. I think we've covered so much news, but in such a condensed space this time, and we're not too far off what I expected. Hopefully, lengthwise, considering how much we had to talk about. There's been so much. I'm trying to keep up on my movie challenge. I'm doing all right. I haven't gone to see anything this week though, so I need to see the rectify that. I'll go see 2 things next week, I guess. But there isn't a lot. There's like kind of a weird week where it's kind of post Captain Marvel. People have stayed clear, and I haven't picked out anything specific. I should go see something non-blockbustery, but I can go look at some of those.
See what's on, yeah.
But yeah, no, I think we talked about this last time. We still need to see First Man. I've got it on Blu-ray. I need to sit down and watch that. But other than that, just continuing tracking on. We also got some big weeks coming up. Shazam's coming out. We've got
next couple of weeks.
Yeah, we've also got obviously Avengers coming out in a month, just under a month's time. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how things progress in the coming weeks and the kind of that box office taking and how much it demands. A lot of sequels coming out this year, a lot of everything. What about yourself? Anything on us?
I think I kind of definitely want to go and see Fighting with My Family with my girlfriend. She had no idea it was based on a wrestler as well. And she's like, do you want to go see it? I was like, yeah, all right, we'll put some time aside for it. So I think we'll probably go and do that next week.
Cool.
So
we have to
we
talk
can
about
talk about that. Yeah, and
definitely.
see my thoughts on it, because like I said earlier about the Chris Hemsworth Hulk Hogan thing, I'm a big wrestling fan, so it'd be a good takeaway for me to look into something that's both a movie and wrestling related to bring back to the table.
I am impressed by the trailer. I have no interest in the wrestling in general myself, but I'm impressed by the trailer. It's been getting pretty damn good reviews. So
yeah,
I'll be very interested to see what you have to say about it.
Well, I think now we've come to the time of the show where we should do names from a bag or hat, if you will, whatever you want to call it. We've got a bag. We looked at it earlier. There's not that many names coming into it, so we might need some more suggestions. If you guys want to update us with some more, if you've already listened to what we've pulled out so far and what we're about to pull out, you could send us more names or suggest another game we could potentially play at the end of the show.
Yes, yeah, because I think we're not going to get past another episode with what we've currently got.
Right, so I'll shake these up. I'll let you go first.
Right.
You've got... Oh,
I've got a big one.
Oh, that's what she said. That's my one per show.
Yeah, you get that. One per show.
And ready, and go.
Hannah Bonham Carter, Jesus. Fight Club, that's a pretty obvious one. Alice in Wonderland. Sweeney Todd. God, I could pretty much list every Tim Burton film, couldn't I? Oh my god, I'm going blank now. I have like pictures of her playing kooky characters everywhere. Oh my gosh.
5 seconds.
Oh gosh, no, I'm out. I've got 3.
Got 3.
That's me.
I would have also accepted Harry Potter.
Ah, of course. Oh my gosh, how did I forget that? She just plays kooky characters, let's be honest.
And pretty much every Tim Burton film.
And every...
Wow.
Up until...
Well, I'd say most.
A lot of them.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Do I get a point for like saying every Tim Burton film?
I reckon half a point.
3.5.
I'll be generous and go half a point.
3.5. Right. I've got this to watch.
A new point system now.
Yeah, 3.5 points. Cause I said every... No, it's just a joke. It's 3 points.
Go that one there. I haven't looked.
All right. In 3, 2, 1.
Okay. Jack Nicholson. Batman. The one with Adam Sandler. Oh, crap. Oh, this is so much harder for me. Why? What's the one with Bellevue Hotel? One that's in Ready Player One. Oh, spoiler alert.
Not Bellevue, but yeah.
No. Crap. Why have I just got Batman? Damn it.
2, 1.
Damn it.
You're right. You're thinking of anger management with
Thank
Adam
you.
Sandler. The Shining.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
You could have One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah. For some reason I was thinking Robert De Niro, so I was going to say Taxi Driver, but I knew that wasn't it.
Wow. Okay. That's...
I should have actually said A Few Good Men as well.
Yeah, A Few Good Men.
You can't handle the truth.
You can't handle the truth.
No,
That is correct.
I
You
clearly
can't handle this game either.
No, I clearly can't handle this game. Maybe this is why we need your suggestions for a new game. For some reason I get 1 or 2 and then I just cave.
All right.
So we go on.
That was my second round, sorry, of 3.
All right. And go.
Oh, Clint Eastwood. All right, Dirty Harry. The Mule. I just saw that just recently. $1 Million Baby. Gran Torino. Oh, Every Which Way But Loose is a good classic though. Deadpool, that's the other Dirty Harry. There's a bunch of Dirty Harrys, like a Sudden Impact as well. I'm drawing a blank now. I've got more. Escape from Alcatraz.
Oh, I'll give you that on the buzzer.
Yes.
I'll give you that on the buzzer.
How many was that? With that on the buzzer?
8.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm happy with that.
That's our record so far, to be fair.
All right.
Maybe, I can't remember. I'd have to go back into the archives and find out.
Yeah, okay. Maybe the Schwarzenegger one I got more than that. I don't know.
Oh, shit, that feels long. Oh, no. Oh, I can't say that joke either. I've already had my one per show.
That's still technically classed as the second one.
Yeah.
All right, and in 3, 2, 1.
Sigourney Weaver. Okay, so we got Alien, Ghostbusters, Avatar.
Yep.
They're like the first 3 off the head. What am I gonna do? I can't even picture it in anything other than those 3.
2 seconds. 1
idea.
second. That's it.
No.
What did you get? 3.
3.
You could add Gorillas in the Mist.
Of course.
Paul.
Cabin
Cabin in the Woods. Could add that. Years of Living Dangerously. She's in that. But it's the obvious ones. You've got your Alien and all that sort of stuff. So probably want to go. Deal of the Century. That's another one. It's Chevy Chase.
Yeah. Round 3.
Last round for me.
All right, we're ready and go.
Tim Allen. Oh my gosh. The Santa Claus. Galaxy Quest. Is it Man of the House? Is that the one that he's in? Is that him?
I'm not sure.
I don't know. God, he hasn't been in that many movies, has he? Old Dogs? He's in Old Dogs, yeah. Oh my gosh.
10 seconds.
This is hard. Well, because I can't think of movies that he's actually in. I mean, there's all the Santa Claus movies, and I've said that.
2.
Yeah.
1.
Galaxy Quest.
Time.
What else? Can you think of anything else?
I would have accepted Toy Story.
Ah, that would have been obvious. Damn it. I should have thought about that. I'm not thinking voice roles. What else? Can you think of anything else other than that, though?
No. To be honest, apart from Home Improvement.
Yeah, it's a TV show, isn't it? I get the feeling I've confounded this for some other reason.
I think
Man of the House is Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it sounds like
But
Tommy Lee Jones.
what's the one I'm thinking of? Oh, the Shaggy Dog.
Oh, of course.
Jungle to Jungle.
Oh, yeah.
Christmas with the Cranks. Zoom. Do you remember Zoom?
Oh, God.
Yeah. Right. Your turn. Picked one. Right.
Last of 3.
3, 2, 1.
And, oh, jeez, I can't even see it. Oh, I'm wasting time. Oh, Susan Sarandon. Oh, crap.
Give you an extra couple of seconds.
Susan Sarandon. I'm drawing a complete blank. Is it the one with Gina Davis? Not Mork and Mindy. What is it? I'm right though, isn't it? Is they go in? They're in the car.
Correct. Should I just remind you of the Simpsons parody of it? Maybe that'll help you.
Yeah. No, I don't think it will. And I can see the time running out. I can't even start with 1. This is terrible.
And you're up.
Done. No, I got nothing.
Thelma and Louise.
Thank you. That's what I was thinking of. Oh, that was terrible.
I would have even given you a point if you had seen Team America World Police.
Wow.
Because you were struggling so much.
Yeah, see, I would have given that a half a point.
No, I would have given you a point considering how much you were struggling. Even though it's not actually who it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
I would have given you. I think I would have struggled with that as well. You'd probably be better with Tim Robbins, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I probably would, actually, yeah.
Well, there's the Rocky Horror Picture Show, of course.
Oh, of course.
Dead Man Walking. The Client. The Witches of Eastwick.
Oh, yeah.
Bad Mums 2, Bad Mums Christmas. She was one of the moms. Not bad.
Yeah. So
you did struggle with that one, but
yeah.
I think it's understandable.
I think it goes to prove we definitely need a new game. To be fair, one that would probably be more equal.
There's enough for another episode.
All
We'll
right,
do one more episode.
All
We'll
right.
make it 5, and then we'll change to.
Yeah.
There's definitely enough there for 3 rounds each. But next one as well, I'll go back and look at the overall scores, and we'll try and figure out who got the most.
Yeah, we can throw a tally up.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. All right.
I think that's pretty much all we've got to talk about today.
Yep. The usual thing.
Nothing else, yeah.
Nah.
All right, so I think there's no better time but to close it. As always, I've been Ryan.
And I'm Robbie. Make sure you comment, subscribe, share, all that sort of jazz that everyone's supposed to do on the internet.
Give us a good thumbs up. Or react.
React.
Please do, that'll help us get better.
I think we're getting all right. Is it right? Episode 4, we're not too bad.
Yeah, we're getting through it. We're getting a steady stream of listeners.
Yeah, hopeful.
For now.
All good.
But yeah.
We'll catch you next time.
All right, bye.